Today I'm so excited to welcome to the show Laurel McHargue. Hold on,
McHargue.
if I said that right. Who is a prolific writer. You can find out more about her at leadbilllaurel.com. And I just want to share this one tidbit before I welcome you. You're Leadville Laurel because you write at 10,000 feet up at the heights of Colorado in this little mountain town. And it's so high, the altitude's so high that I've heard you can't even really boil eggs because the water doesn't get hot enough. You can tell me about that, and welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, and thanks for having me on. And I think living at 10,200 feet helps my creativity. I'm not sure if it's lack of oxygen or or just the beauty of my surroundings. We'll say it's the beauty of my surroundings.
Oh, that's
Gives me
so funny.
a lot
So
of
you
inspiration.
write about all different things. You're a blogger, you're a writer, you've written many books. How do you choose what genre to write in?
Well, one of my goals as an author, when I decided to leave teaching full-time to become an author in 2011, was to try to write in as many genres as possible. I liken it to an athlete. If you want to be really good at something, you should do a lot of different things and be really well-rounded. And I think that as a writer, I don't want to be boxed into one genre. And maybe I'm a little bit of a rebel in that regard. I've had some friends tell me, you should really market yourself as an education author or a fantasy adventure author or this author or that author. And I just said no. I don't want to. I want to write everything. I want to try everything because I think by pushing yourself beyond what comes naturally, you're going to learn how to be a better writer. And I also read in all kinds of different genres as well. So I think that is helping me to be a better writer and a better reader and a better critic of other authors. And I just like the challenge.
So how many books have you published so far?
Well, let's see. Today's on July 1st. I'll publish my 6th book. It's called. Okay, so I wrote a novella called The Hair Raising Truth, and it's a naughty adult fairy tale. Written from a second-person perspective, kind of like a Twilight Zone narrator. And that was completely different. I wrote that in 3 days. It was a 3-day writing challenge. And my husband claims it's the best thing I've written so far. I really totally got into it, and it surprised me. Actually, the whole thing surprised me how it just unfolded.
Yeah, so tell me, it doesn't sound like you have writer's block. Have you ever struggled with writer's block?
So writer's block, I want to say bah humbug to writer's block because I think people use it as an excuse sometimes not to write. I have writer's block today, so I'll do the laundry or clean my sock drawer or test this new recipe or do anything other than write. When in fact, you may have writer's block on a specific scene. Say you're working on a book and you just don't know what's going to happen next. You might be blocked. You might not know exactly what's going to happen. But does that mean that you can't write something? I really believe that you could sit down and pick up your cell phone and you could write a description about the cell phone. Look at a picture that you might have on it and go to that place that you've taken a photo of. Write about it. Write something. So to be blocked, I think a lot of people take that as an excuse not to write at all.
So let's talk about that because we both work with clients, and as you know, I have a lot of writing clients, and what comes up in terms of writer's block for them is also that they don't know what to write for their book they're working on. And what I hear you say is don't worry about it, write about anything. And
Yes.
I would add to that when you do force yourself to write about anything, you train your muse to show up.
Yes, it opens you up, it unblocks you in a way. It takes you away from the frustration that you're temporarily feeling, that you can't get the next piece of dialogue. What is this character going to say? Or or where should the story go. It takes you away from that, and oftentimes I'll go to bed at night not knowing what my next chapter will be about, how I'll start it, and something will come to me in a dream, or I'll just wake up and I'll know, or in the middle of the night something will let's call it unblock, and I'll just figure it out. Most of my inspiration comes when I'm doing something else, when I'm taking a walk. I have a buddy I walk with in the morning, and again, as I said, Leadville is just a gorgeous place to live. We have 14er mountains all around us: Mount Massive, Mount Albert, the Mosquito Range. Everywhere I look, there's beauty, and then there might be odd things. And I've used a lot of those walks for my fantasy adventure that I wrote, my Waterwight series, which is a fantasy adventure young adult book. I'm working on book 2 now of that trilogy. Very excited about that. But that book actually started with a dream. And I never saw myself as a young adult fantasy adventure writer, but the thought that I could try that really excited me. And book 1 just rolled out of me, poured out of me over the course of a year. And I incorporated things from dreams. I incorporated things from my walks. I saw Mount Massive. My friend pointed out a profile on it. And so I have a mountain spirit. Old Man Massive is a mountain spirit in the book. It just seems like everything I saw I could use in a scene, or people I would meet, I could use them as characters.
So I want to interrupt for a minute, because it's interesting that you said you wrote a book in 3 days that poured out of you, and you wrote a book in a year that poured out of you.
Yes.
And I think for writers, it's important to understand that flow can come in all kinds of timing.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. My blog posts, I know a lot of people ask if I blog regularly, or am I the kind of writer that sits down and knocks out 4 hours every day. And I wish I could say that I was that kind of writer, but I'm not. I'm more of a binge writer, maybe, perhaps, when I think that the 3-day novel flowed out of me and I didn't want to stop writing. That was amazing. My blog posts tend to come when something really hits me, and I say to myself, I need to write about this. And if I have something else going on, I'll typically push that other thing away and I'll work on that blog post, because within the moment of that inspiration, I feel like I can do my best writing.
Yeah, interesting. Have you ever written nonfiction?
So my first novel that I ever wrote is called Miss. I have them all back here. Here's Miss. Miss. This was based very loosely fictionalized account of my first year teaching. So my real nonfiction books would be the latest, my Hunt for Red Meat. This is based on my blog posts. So those are real stories.
I think there's really 2 types of writers that I come in contact with. There's probably many, many more. But often my clients are most comfortable either writing down the structure first, the table of contents, fleshing out the characters, maybe even coming out with a storyline and the pivots and the arc of the story, and fleshing all that out first. And then there's the other type of client who just starts writing and see where it leads. Which are you? Have you played with both of those structures?
Am I a planner or a pantser, you're asking?
Yep.
I've become a plantser. So let's see. When I say that 2 of the books flowed out of me with seriously my Waterwight book 1 flowed out of me with no planning whatsoever. I knew what was going to happen, and I knew that it was going to be a trilogy, but characters showed up to me along the way while I was writing it, so I incorporated them as I went. And I had a basic idea of how it would end. My 3-day novella, I had a general outline of chapters. I had, this will happen in chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, one sentence. And that evolved and became something different as I started writing it. So there was a little bit of a plan there. Now with book 2 of the Waterwight series, once you do one book, then it becomes more difficult to let the second book just flow out because you have so much to remember from the first book. You have characters that you need to make sure are consistent in the second book. And so book 2 of the Waterwight series, I actually have planned. I have the chapters all laid out. And I say planned in that for each of the 63 chapters, I know there are 63 chapters because I have 3 storylines I determined. I have 1 or 2 sentences per chapter that I've written down. So I know what's going to happen in each chapter and how that's going to end. That's the extent of the planning that I've done on that one. For the nonfiction book that I will write based on my dad's letters, that will take more planning.
Mm-hmm. Nice, thank
so
you. Thank
both.
you. Yeah. So let's talk about how your books are selling, because that's really what most prospective authors want to know, right? And that's one of the things that comes up in my classes all the time. What can I expect? And you don't have to give us numbers, feel free, but like, is it what you expected? Have you sold more? Have you sold less? Do you constantly promote your books? Kind of tell me how you do your marketing.
I never want to discourage anyone by saying you're not going to make any money as an author. I've made some money as an author, and then the question then becomes, how much do you want to spend on your marketing? What do you want to do for your marketing? And I've done a lot. I've hired out my cover designs, most of my cover design. I do PR web press releases, and again, pay for those. There are some interviews that you can do that you have to pay for. There's traveling if you want to go to bookstores, do book events, and again at those, you might be building your email list, which I think is really important to do. You don't sell a ton at those. You always expect that once you hit the approve and publish now, I publish my own books. You expect lots and lots of hits, and then you go online and maybe you've sold 100, maybe you've sold 25, maybe you've sold 2. It depends on so many things. When you look at the fact that as indie authors, we're competing against hundreds of thousands of new indie authors every year. It's a crazy market. It's very tough.
Mm-hmm. So it's encouraging that you write for the sake of writing, and most of my clients have something else to sell besides just their books. They have a program or a process. Most of my clients are nonfiction. Not everybody. We've certainly marketed fiction authors as well, but I like that you write to write and that you keep putting your work out there, and I hope that someday you make a ton of money off of it. Give me one thing to leave our prospective published authors and maybe any authors with. Give them one piece of encouragement.
I completely encourage you. All it takes is the right person maybe to find your work. But again, if you're writing because you love to write and you have to write and it's in you and you have to get it out and share it, for me, getting that review on Amazon is so valuable and just makes me smile when my work makes someone else happy or gives them something to look forward to. Write because you have to write, and just enjoy it. Enjoy the process.
Oh, I love that. Thank you.
Stretch yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much for being a guest on the show. You can find out more about Laurel and her books and her blog and everything else she does at leadvillelaurel.com. And don't forget to leave her a review after you purchase her books on Amazon. Thanks for being a guest today.
Thank you, Michelle. I really enjoyed it. You take care.